Hello, I'm Richard Sher, and it's time to square off. Ladies and gentlemen, let's meet our panel. First of all, GOP committee woman, the amazing Nicolee Ambrose. We have Mr. Politics, Hassan Giordano, External Affairs Chief for the Baltimore City State's Attorney Ivan Bates's office. Former Baltimore Mayor Sheila Dixon, a square-off regular. Good to see you again, Sheila. And business executive, financial consultant, and author Tyrone Keys. Former President Donald Trump has raised some eyebrows while speaking at a Black conservative formal event just prior to the South Carolina Republican primary. In his words, quote, "I got indicted for nothing, for something that is nothing. And some people said that's why Black people like me, because they've been hurt so badly too and discriminated against. And they actually view me as I'm being discriminated against." Hassan Giordano, kickoff. What do you think of those words?
If that doesn't prove how big of a buffoon that this guy is, only shows that, first of all, look, let's be honest. There are certain people, and I'm not going to speak for all Black people that support Donald Trump. But I will speak for those who have been formerly incarcerated or those who have been accused, whether falsely or rightfully accused of things. That is not why people like Trump. I'm just telling you right now. And I think he offended a lot of Black people and really honestly offended a lot of people in general with the statement that he made there. But again, this is a thousandth mistake that he continues to make over and over again. At the end of the day, we got one buffoon Biden against the other buffoon Donald Trump in November, and it's a sad day in American history.
All right, Tyrone. Thank you very much, Hassan. Good to have you back. Tyrone, your thoughts?
Well, it's funny. Every time I hear charges of racism against Donald Trump, take a look at Baltimore City. It's been run by Black people, lock, stock, and barrel for what, 40 years now? It's a basket case. Dalton, Illinois, that woman up there, Tiffany Henyard, the mayor, Black mayor, treating Black constituents like hot garbage. Look at what Eric Adams and the mayor of Chicago, Johnson, are doing. Now, they're Black, but they're spending taxpayer dollars on non-citizens to the detriment of the Black community. So every time we have this debate about whether or not Trump is racist, I always think about these incidents. And you know what else? We got a man sitting in the Oval Office right now. In fact, I think he's probably just getting up. He'll be in the office by noon, who actually tried to resegregate the public school system. Said he didn't want his crackhead son going to a racial jungle. Okay? So you want to talk to me about racism with these comments, and we don't want to address this other stuff that's going on right now? Total hypocrisy.
All right. We're going to go to Sheila. Sheila, you're involved in the political.
I don't know how I can follow Tyrone, but I need to talk to him and get some points for my I can't talk politics. So let me say this. I don't support Trump. I think what he said to this Republican conservative Black group was inappropriate. There are a whole host of issues, and I agree, Tyrone. There are. We've had Black leadership in Baltimore, across this country, and there are a whole host of issues that have impacted the Black community. But to make that comparison about what Trump has said, he has gotten indicted for things that he has done. He has to go through the process and deal with the consequences and not keep blaming others for his action. You commit crimes, you commit incidents, you have to pay the consequences. Hopefully, he'll learn from whatever mistakes he's made and move on with his life. But right now, things are a mess in this country. I agree, things are totally a mess of what's happening with immigrants and sanctuary cities and just basic fundamental things across this country, and particularly Baltimore and everywhere else, that we just tend to not address. It's like we put a blind eye to it. And I'm just frustrated about what's happening nationally as well as locally.
All right. What we're going to do now is turn to our very amazing GOP committee woman, Nicolee Ambrose. Take all their comments and speak.
You know, Mayor and Tyrone, I think you really nailed it here. But I really believe Democrats have overplayed their hand with all these court cases against Donald Trump. I think many Americans who feel mistreated by the legal system are sympathizing with Donald Trump in a way they wouldn't have had the Democrats not overplayed their hand. And I think specifically the order in which these cases has gone down is further hurting the Democrats' chances this year in November. And I think that's why you're seeing Trump lead in the average of polls by over 2%. These New York civil cases make America look like a banana republic. When you have Mr. Shark Tank himself going on TV saying he would never invest in the state of New York again or start a company there, New York and any Democratic run city should take this as a sign that business is going to flee from your city if they don't think they can get a level playing field or a fair shake. But lastly, I gotta say, I do know some Baltimore City Democrats, particularly men who did not feel fairly treated by the legal system, who gave me a call when all the legal action against Trump started saying, hey, I want t-shirts with Trump's mugshot on it. So, you know, as much dust as pundits can kick up, I think the everyday person on the street might sometimes feel differently.
All right, let me say this, since you brought that up, Nicolee, Trump continued claiming that Black people are why his mugshot, the mugshot you're talking about, the mugshot became so popular with his supporters. And quoting Trump, when I did the mugshot in Atlanta, that mugshot is #1, adding, you know who embraced it more than anyone else? The Black population.
I don't think he has any data to support that, but what we did see were people in Fulton County lining the streets as his motorcade came through, and that was a 100% Black crowd, okay? And I know that had to send shudders through the DNC when they saw people cheering for Trump. What we've seen there is the fact that Trump has been made into a sympathetic character. For whites, for Blacks, it's like there's only so much you can do, and people have internalized this. If they can do it to him, then I don't stand a chance. But so that combined with the fact that they've made him a sympathetic character is actually given, they need to just stop and their chances might get better.
Let me tell you something, Tyrone. First, let's one thing, two corrections. One, I didn't, and other people might have. I haven't called him a racist. He's a buffoon in my mind, but not a racist. I don't put that label unless I actually know that person is that. I'm tired of us keep throwing that word around very loosey-goosey as if that's something to cheer about. The second thing, Biden's son isn't a crackhead. He's a dope fiend. So we want to just make sure that we understand.
I stand corrected.
But look, to be honest, I live in Baltimore City. I have yet to see one Black person with a Donald Trump, free Donald Trump. I don't see his mugshot on their t-shirts. Most Black people in Baltimore City care less about Trump and his charges. I think we as in America have gotten to a point that I don't know if it's Trump or the American media to blame, that we've gotten to a point that it's like it's reality television. And we've forgotten about real Americans going through real problems and issues. We're no longer talking about the problems at the border. Not really. I mean, we got a lot of people on TV, as Nicolee said, talking heads, who are all either in one camp or the other, but they're not talking about the solutions to those problems. And it's become such a polarizing country that you have both parties who are supposed to represent our interests so busy bickering at one another and pointing fingers at the other that we're not getting anything done. The economy is getting worse. The border is out of control. And yes, you can blame that on Biden and on Congress, on both sides of the aisle. But until we start to get back to fundamental values of what government is supposed to represent and do, then we're always going to be looked at from other countries as a reality show in and of itself right here in America.
Sheila, I see you have something to say.
Well, no, I wanted to agree with Hassan about the reality shows. And maybe it's because we have so many reality shows on TV that are just so horrible. And people have bought into this, that's what they thrive on and they're stimulated on, versus functioning at the federal, state, and local level based on your responsibility as a leader within those communities, dealing with the issues that we face every day: quality housing, reducing crime, the economy, taxes, you know, food deserts, cleaning up a city. Baltimore is the dirtiest city in America. I mean, I can go on and on and on issues. Healthcare for, you know, for people, senior issues. I mean, it's just so many issues that we're not dealing with. And it's like, where are these people living? Where are they functioning? What are they thinking every day? What are they drinking? Are they drinking clean and water that doesn't have parasites in it? It's like, are they hearing what I'm hearing from constituents on a daily basis? And that's the frustrating part. So my focus has not been Trump and what he said to this conservative group. Hey, we know that the judicial system is discriminatory against brown and black people. Yes, there's many things that have to be improved in those areas.
Before we break, we want to hear from Nicolee, who's sitting there smiling at your comments, Sheila. What's up?
I so appreciate that. This is one of the most entertaining square offs I've been on in a long time. But what we're talking about is what people actually care about, and like real takes from real people on this stuff. Mayor Dixon's absolutely right. What people actually care about, when you're sitting around the kitchen table at night, you care that you don't have to worry about the water that just came out of your faucet, right? You care that your city takes care of its own citizens before it lets 9 million illegals across the border from Yemen and Afghanistan and China and Venezuela. I mean, this stuff is insane that our government is doing. And it's absolutely counter to every single one of our personal and our family interests.
Tyrone, I saw you nodding affirmatively.
No. Look, we're singing from the same sheet of music here. We've got new Americans. I think that's the newest way to characterize them, coming over here and being economic asylum. That's what the president says, right? Oh, they're fleeing for economic asylum. Well, I got a nephew who is fresh out of prison, okay? Where does he go for economic asylum when he's trying to turn his life around, okay? We don't even have the jobs for these people if you've got to give them $10,000 a head like they're doing up in New York City. Taxpayer money. Meanwhile, they're cutting back because it has to balance, right? They're not the federal government. They just can't print money. Meanwhile, they are cutting back on public service. So the city becomes more violent. You see them Venezuela is not sending their doctors and their scientists and their philosophers up here. They're sending their gang members, and they are proving that to you by beating the hell out of cops in the streets of New York. So this country has some real problems. Chief among them is we prioritize Eastern Europeans in Ukraine, people from other countries coming over here above the tax-paying, law-abiding American citizen.
All right, what we're going to do, we're going to take a break. Great discussion. I want to talk about the visits at the border to square off between the two presidents at the southern border. And we'll do that after we hear from the official, award-winning, I can't say enough about the voice of square off, Howard Mallison.
You can say it all, Richard. You can say it all. I'll take it all. Baltimore has got a lot of great restaurants. Baltimore City is known, and Baltimore, the whole area is known for great restaurants, but really for fine dining, special occasions, or even watching sports in their sports bars, Pappas should be your number one choice. Pappas has the best crab cake you've ever tasted, or as Richard calls it, the fab cake, which is Oprah's favorite as well. One of the many delicious favorites on the Pappas menu. Plus, Pappas ships their crab cakes all over the country. With 4 locations, including their newest sports bar and restaurant in Bel Air. See you at Pappas. And also, Leading Edge Auto Body and Mechanical Repair want you to know that the insurance companies cannot tell you where to take your car. Richard and his family have been taking their cars to Leading Edge for many years for regular service, and if there has been a dent or whatever, they'll take great care of it. They offer free pickup anywhere in the Baltimore area. So give Leading Edge a call at 410-433-6433 or visit them at 5807 Falls Road in Mount Washington. They make your car look and run like new again. Back to you, Richard.
Yes, they do. In fact, Jeff Siegel and his staff over there at Leading Edge just took care of my sister-in-law Jeannie's Honda. And they did a great job, reasonably priced. Car looks like new. If I had a remote camera, I would take you outside to see it because she happens to be visiting at this time. Let's take a moment and go down to the southern border where it was dueling presidential contenders last Thursday. President Biden visiting the border community of Brownsville, Texas, where he met with Border Patrol agents, law enforcement officials, and local leaders. Biden reiterating his call for congressional Republicans and to provide funding for additional Border Patrol agents, more asylum officers, and he invited Donald Trump by name to join him to push the bipartisan border security bill. And it passed, could have been signed by Biden, but Donald Trump told his folks, I want this issue, so kill the bill. What did you think about that, Nicolee?
So, yes, Donald Trump apparently was first scheduled to go to Eagle Pass, Texas, and then President Biden said, well, I've ignored the border for my entire presidency so far, so let's show up. We have had over 9.1 million new Americans, as Tyrone earlier said, but illegal aliens come across just our southern border during Biden's presidency. We have to put this in perspective. That is literally would be the population of our 11th state. Michigan has just over 9 million residents in it. New Jersey is under 9 million. Can you imagine? We have let one of our top 10 states worth of population into this country with no vetting. And what we're finding, right, is a dramatic increase in people on the terror watch list. So far this year, we've already had more people come from China, young men of 18 to 25, sounds like military age to me, come across our southern border more this year in the first 6 months than last year in total. So I don't understand why President Biden can't use his existing authority, existing laws on the book, which he is absolutely refusing to enforce, to make sure people have to go through a vetting process before they get in this country. Do we like immigration? Absolutely. It's how we all got here. Do we want people to go through a legal process? Absolutely. And my question to the Democrats is, why are they holding up actual improvements to the immigration process?
Right.
Where you know, want vetted new citizens or, vetted new immigrants with green cards coming into this country that can actually contribute to American society.
Here's the problem that Americans just are fed up with government. You asked the question on what you feel about Donald Trump telling his colleagues in Congress to not pass something that might not have been the end-all be-all solution, but it was a legislative solution. And instead of giving that, we're giving rhetoric. Like at some point, you have to get past that, the whole Republican and Democratic feud, and get something done. There was
which is follow the existing laws on the book, because all they have to do is enforce the long-standing existing rules and make sure you actually check people in before they come in the border and have a closed border. It's not just a nation state is defined by having borders. If you have no border, you have no nation state.
You had 50 minutes to just talk, and you didn't.
All right, look. Let me say this.
There was a solution there, and it wasn't. And instead of signing it, they decided to go with their former president, who, mind you, when he was president, never signed any piece of legislation that went after immigration.
Hassan,
here's why that bill should not be promoted, because inside that package is even more funding for Ukraine. Everything that comes out of the White House or the Democrat side of the Congress, somewhere in there, there's an earmark for even more money for Ukraine. The president of the United States controls the executive branch. So he can do what he wants to right now, okay, to stem the tide that's coming through at the border. And he's relying on the ignorance, the legislative ignorance of the American people to make them think that he needs something else to happen to take the reins. No, Ukraine shouldn't get one thin dime more. Okay, I don't give a damn if Putin takes them. Look, we got enough problems in this country. Obama, when Putin went over into the Crimea, Obama said, hey, you know, I'm not getting involved with that militarily. Same thing with Bush, Trump. But I think we all know, because he said it out of his own mouth, that there's some financial interest in Ukraine that's important to the Biden family. Yesterday, the big guy was exposed in the congressional hearing as President Biden. So no, don't sign that immigration bill, because it gives even more taxpayer money when the president can act on his own right
And
now.
the solution to that, Tyrone, is an amendment.
Hold it, Hassan.
Yeah, but something,
Hold
yeah,
it.
but something needs, first of all, we need the Congress and the president needs to come together, Republican and Democrats, and sign an immigration law. Not just this president, but the last 5 presidents, we have not resolved this issue. And we're dealing with intelligent individuals. When we see there's a problem, we need to put a halt on bringing anybody else into the country until we figure out and set up a system that's going to be transparent, that's going to provide the kind of background checks and screening of individuals before they come in, and work through that process. And I agree a little bit with Tyrone. We tend to mix different pieces in with this immigration piece, which should not happen. I think we do need to support Ukraine, but we shouldn't support it through this legislation. And this seems to happen through Congress and through the executive branch. But the bottom line is, how long are we going to talk about this issue? And how long are innocent people who are actually suffering in their countries, who are trying to get here for a better life? I'm not talking about gangs and criminals, because we need to address that issue. But it's like, how many presidents have we gone through and this hasn't been addressed? I know someone who's here right now who would love to, or they're paying big amounts of money, who would love to have their partner to be here legally.
Right,
and they've gone through 5 presidents and it still hasn't happened.
Trump
What is it going to take?
Richard, real quick.
Stop. All the
Real
time.
quick, Richard, let me just say one thing. Take a page out of Obama's book. He didn't need any new laws, and he's known as the deporter in chief. Okay, he didn't need any new laws to do that. He just acted within the existing authority.
But if we pass,
I know Joe Biden.
Hold on,
Hassan. I know Joe Biden doesn't remember working for Barack Obama, but that's what his own boss did.
That's cold. Yes, he does.
But listen to me. If you pass a sweeping, comprehensive immigration reform bill, then we won't have to worry about future presidents being as inept as this president is on immigration policy.
But Hassan, okay, I actually used to work for the U.S. Department of Labor, and I worked for the agency that controlled all these visas, especially all the worker visas, okay? And it had been on every single president's agenda to try to adjust those visa numbers since the 1970s at least, okay? And what it always got hung up on was partisan wrangling, because Democrats just wanted to give blanket citizenship to everyone. And Republicans said, no, let's actually think about this in a more thoughtful way. We're just not giving citizenship to every single person who wants to walk in this country. And that's what it's consistently been held up on. So all of this stuff with controlling our border is ridiculous. It can all be done under existing authority. We don't need any new laws. We just need to enforce existing laws. What I would support any day of the week is additional funding for more Border Patrol agents, because they have this insanity at the border has got to be stopped. And now it's not just the southern border, it's also our other borders.
In the words of Kanye West, I'm going to let you finish, but understand that 1 million people legally immigrate to this country every year. We do not have a problem with legal immigration.
All right, guys, listen. I want to talk about the dangers of flying. What's going on in some of these jet planes to the flight attendants, to fellow passengers. It's getting to be very concerning. Here's Howard. We'll be right back.
Thank you, Richard. You know, I'm sure you've seen some of the Barry Glazer TV commercials. They're different. They get your attention, but they also get results. That's why Barry Glazer and his team, including an in-house doctor, make no apologies for getting every penny they can from insurance companies. So when it comes to personal injury, medical malpractice, or nursing home neglect, there's only one choice: Barry Glazer, 410-547-8568. And you know, there are a lot of diners in the Baltimore area, and the most famous of them all are the Double T diners. TT, totally terrific. You're sure to find the best breakfast, lunch, or dinner from the Double T's enormous menu selections. There's Double T diners on Route 40 West, Perry Hall, White Marsh, Bel Air, Laurel, Annapolis, Pasadena, and the EC Diner in Ellicott City. Plus, try By the Docks in Middle River for their Monday night lobster special. They're all in the Double T family. Now back to you, Richard.
I love the chip beef. I like
Making me hungry.
corned beef. Next time we'll feed you all. Okay, let's take you out to BWI Thurgood Marshall Airport. This happens to be a beautiful, wonderful airport, making great additions, and they're serving just under 40 million passengers a year. But you all know, if you watch the news, flying is nothing like it used to be, with the Federal Aviation Administration reporting a record 5,981 instances of unruly passengers. Flight attendants have been attacked, stabbed, one. Some passengers have been punching other passengers or spitting, throwing trash at people, shouting obscenities, using racial slurs, gender and homophobic slurs. And there have been several instances of passengers recently trying to open jet doors from the planes that are 37,000 feet. And then you have the Alaska Airlines window pane, the panel that came off. It's getting to be a little frightening. Sheila, what do you think? You fly.
So this is just reflected of how people in America are operating. People who are on social media, people who, it seems like since COVID that there are a lot more mental issues that people are experiencing that have not been addressed. It's like a cosmos of what people are dealing with on a daily basis, no matter what environment that they're in. And we got to get some controls over, but how do you monitor this? How do you know when you get on the plane that this person is going to do something crazy? Could we eliminate alcohol? Can you eliminate people smoking cannabis before coming on a plane? I mean, there's so many factors, but how do you know exactly what's going to happen? Do you have extra police patrol on those planes? And that's going to then end up costing us more money. But it's just kind of reflective of what people experience every day when you're driving down the street and somebody's speeding and you make a comment and somebody takes out a gun and shoots you.
Yeah, it's been becoming a very selfish country. One of my biggest pet peeves now, especially post-COVID, and I think some of it probably in this particular situation has to do with the Uber and all that. People just stop in the middle of the street, double park. Doesn't matter about anybody else. As long as they are satisfied, they're happy, they could care less about the next person. And I think this in terms of flying, you see the same thing, right? It's an incident. You can't, as much as you want to blame the younger generation on game systems and you want to blame social media for stuff, I think it's just a multitude of a lot of different things that have gotten this country so rude that it makes New York City and its quote unquote reputation, seem like that's an afterthought. I mean, it's just people have this in these days and era have just decided to be selfish and not really care about what the next person thinks. And unfortunately, we again see this exuded right from our federal government in Congress. And so there's no level of example. Before, back in the day, you had at least people who led by example and showed a better way. You don't even have that coming from your leaders today.
Yeah, I have to agree with Hassan there. And as far as Sheila, you were talking about solutions. I think an after the fact solution would just be to lifetime bans, okay, on these airlines. If you get up at 30,000 feet and start acting crazy in a tube that no one can escape from, you need to be banned from that mode of travel. And then after you have to leave the driving the Greyhound or, drive your own damn car, then you will reflect back on that. You'll tell your friends. They'll say, hey, Jim, the wedding is next week in San Francisco. Oh, I better start now because I've got to drive. And that will permeate through society eventually.
Well, listen.
That kind of accountability. I hear you.
Hold it,
And make it public. Show the person's picture on the media so it can be public.
This past week, and then we're going to have to wrap up, on a recent Alaska Airlines flight, here's a passenger who makes a weapon out of ballpoint pens wrapped in rubber bands, and he stabs a fellow passenger, and they have to jump the guy, tie him up in duct tape. Nicolee, where are you, my dear?
I think the ballpoint pen guy must have got her.
You think so?
Yeah, maybe. But yeah, Richard, look, again, that's a prime candidate for a lifetime ban. But there's Nicolee. I guess she can opine.
Nicolee, do you want to opine to close our show?
I think we've touched on the really obvious truth that since COVID, our society has had such a devolution of mental health that our country's mental health crisis has just completely gotten out of control. It's snowballed since COVID. But Tyrone also said something incredibly important, which is we've also completely lost touch of cause and effect. If you do something bad, there's supposed to be an effect, right? We have this society where we're uplifting criminals, we're treating the victims as though they don't matter and that something's wrong with them, that something bad happened to them. And it's just this, we are on track for a complete societal meltdown unless we turn these basic trends around.
All right, we got to wrap it up. Listen, this was a very good program. I'm very proud of each of you. Sheila, Dixon, nice to see you again.
Good seeing you.
Mr. Politics, Mr. Hassan Giordano, the man that knows everything about books and finance, Tyrone Keys, and our GOP committee woman, Nicolee Ambrose. We want to tell you that our audiences continue to grow with your support. Thank you. We're at squareoff.net. And we'll all see you again next week when once again we square off. Boom. Bye-bye.